Recently, Canada came up with an open work permit for H1B holders who are working in the US. What this program does is that it gives open work permit for up to 10,000 H1B visa holders for 3 years. There are certain qualifications that these applicants must have that includes their admissibility into Canada. So what is this program all about? Is it even worth considering? I will tell you why I think this program is going to be an utter failure and it will not do good for anyone. The only good that seems to be coming out of this is that Canadian government made $1.5 million for doing nothing because the application required $155 fee. So 10,000 people applied and then Canadian government made $1.5 million. I know that many people are going to accuse me that I'm being pessimistic about the situation. But I believe that I'm giving a truthful depiction of the situation. If you are going to accuse me of being pessimistic, I suggest that you stop watching the video now. However, if you want to know the real situation, keep watching. On the application website for this program, the Canadian government said that they are looking to keep highly skilled immigrants in North America. But is it really so? If they are really looking to attract highly skilled immigrants, why not open this for Mexico as well? What is the real intention of the Canadian government? Let's be real. There are no free lunches. The Canadian government is clearly not looking to give out charity here. What Canadians are doing with these 10,000 work permits is that they are giving a signal to American corporations that why don't you move some of your operations to Canada? They are simply trying to attract some investment. Everyone knows that H1B life is very uncertain and because of which it can be very painful to go through the immigration process in the US. Therefore, the Canadian government is trying to attract American investors to grow their own economy. Because see for yourself, there are already far too many immigrants in Canada who are looking for jobs and are not able to find those jobs. And if anything, Canadian immigration is actually very strict. You do not depend on an H1B lottery kind of a system in Canada. Instead, you need to get a job first and Canadian immigration is points-based, merit-based system. Another reason and a very big reason is that there is a lack of jobs in Canada. There is a huge lack of jobs in Canada. There are a few jobs, but as compared to the US, there are hardly any jobs in Canada. You cannot even compare Canada with the US. Canada stands nowhere as compared to the United States. And what makes it really worse for Canada is that there is a huge supply of people looking for jobs as compared to the demand for those jobs. Thousands and thousands of new graduates from Canadian universities are not able to find jobs in Canada itself. And believe it or not, even skilled immigrants in Canada, sometimes very highly skilled immigrants in Canada are not able to find jobs. What it has been doing is that those skilled immigrants are forced to look for jobs that are way below their skill set level. So much so that highly skilled immigrants, that even includes doctors and engineers, are working at stores. They are even driving Uber to pay their bills. And they are doing this because they are not able to get a job that matches their skill sets. And let me note a very important point. This new system by Canada of attracting 10,000 H1Bs, well, you need to have a job in Canada to work. You cannot import your job. You cannot come to Canada and say that I will work remotely for an American employer. That is not accepted in this system. The website clearly says that the person must find a job in Canada for a company that is operating from inside of Canada. Therefore, remotely working for a company that is operating from outside of Canada is not even an option here. And what to talk about those jobs where working remotely is not even an option? What do you expect? Somebody who lives in Texas and moves to Canada because of those 10,000 visas goes to Canada and keeps commuting back and forth to Texas. It's not going to work. Their salary will drain out immediately. And moreover, each time you enter the US while you have an H1B, you have that element of risk. So the only way this can work is when someone gets a job inside of Canada. And as I said earlier, those already in Canada are struggling really bad. What to talk about those new people who enter Canada and look for new jobs all over again? It's a simple question. What are those H1Bs going to do when they move to Canada? And there are several other factors based on which I believe that this program is going to fail. And even if I am proved wrong, where the program succeeds, I certainly believe that it will take a few years for this program to show some real credible success. But let us ask a simple question. Who is really going to gain from this? Those on H1B living in the US are not really going to gain much at all. Why do I say that? First of all, online information that you can find, it says that there are about 500,000 people working on H1B in the US. I think that is not an accurate number. I think there are up to 2 million people. If you look at from, let's say, 2006 to until now, let's say 120,000 H1B visas were given out, most of which obviously probably went to people from India. And I'm saying 120, I'm still being conservative. Please remember that even though the number is 85,000, It only counts for profit corporations. There are many jobs that are not for profit. Many healthcare jobs are not for profit, many university oriented jobs are not for profit, and there are non-profit organizations as well. And let's assume that the range is between 500,000 to 2 million. How many visas are Canadians giving out? 10,000? 10,000 visas is nothing. Don't believe me? Let me make a simple observation. The Canadian government, when they rolled out this plan, they said that this program will be open for 1 year or until they hit 10,000 applications. And guess what happened? It did not take 365 days to fill that slot. It just took 2 days and the program is now closed. That is it. Just 2 days. And then how many of these people are really going to get those work permits? Do you really think that all those 10,000 people are really going to be able to convince their employers to move their job to Canada? Being realistic and possibly pessimistic, I think the best number possible is maybe around 500 people will be able to utilize this program effectively and actually move to Canada and work from there for a company that is operating from inside of Canada. And to play the devil's advocate, let's say I'm wrong and all those 10,000 people are happily going to move to Canada and are going to start working there. But still keep in mind that among all these number of people who are working on H1B, 10,000 is still a very small number. In any given year, at least 100,000 new H1Bs come up. And what about life in Canada? Well, Canada is a very beautiful country and it has a very stable immigration process. We can't deny that. But that said, Canada, truly speaking, lags behind America in almost every parameter that is important for those people working on H1B. Almost all of Canadian population lives in just 5 cities. That's it. 5 cities. Compare that to the state of Texas. You have Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, and Austin. Even Texas has 5 influential cities in just one state I'm talking about. What to talk about whole of the US? So the comparison with Canada is not fair for America. And the next point is that cost of living in Canada has gone over the roof. The inflation is very, very high. Buying a home in Canada is near impossible. Even if you have the money, even finding a home is not all that easy given the housing shortage in Canada. Canada is currently suffering from one of the worst housing crises in the whole world. So forget housing, even renting is not at all cheap in Canada. Whatever money people make in Canada, a large portion of it gets drained out in taxes and rent alone. The only peace of mind that people can have in Canada is that their immigration process is more stable and certain as compared to the US. The quality of life in general for a new immigrant in Canada is much inferior to the life in the US. In fact, a lot of people moved to Canada in the last 10 years, particularly from Gulf countries. I'm not saying Gulf citizens. Immigrants from Gulf countries moved to Canada and a lot of them have been moving back. People have been emigrating out of Canada and that is one of the reasons why Canada is trying to attract those highly skilled people to work in Canada and attract investments from American companies. Given how expensive it is to live in Canada, apart from very high expenses, Canada is not all that attractive of a country to immigrate to. So a question naturally arises is that if life in Canada is so much tougher than life in the US, how come all these 10,000 H1B slots got filled in just 2 days? How did that happen? Well, there are several key reasons. The first reason is that all these 10,000 applicants were frustrated with their green card backlog in the US. Second reason is that this application was not all that very expensive. It was just 155 Canadian dollars, which is even less in US dollar terms. People who applied for it do not really have much to lose. What's the worst thing that can happen? A few $100s wasted, right? That's okay. The third reason is that there is a certain desperation in people to live in a developed country. The reason being is that they think that they can earn more money and send their kids to good schools here. The fourth reason is that there is a great deal of uncertainty about going back to their home country. Even in India, the supply for jobs is far, far greater than demand for those jobs. There are far too many people looking for jobs given the number of jobs that are available to be taken. Therefore, to avoid that kind of uncertainty back home and the uncertainty due to immigration in the US, people are really trying to stay back one way or the other. And that is the reason why 10,000 people applied immediately for that work permit. From the Canadian perspective also, they do not really have much to lose at all. If anything, they have only to gain. If they can attract American companies to invest in Canada and start their operations in Canada, well, they will attract more investment, and then they will get tax money as well. But will this plan really succeed is the question. The reason I doubt it is because how many US based companies are really willing to move to Canada? In fact, US companies do not have a strong incentive to move their operations to another country where things are already quite expensive. If at all they move their operations, they'll move their operations to some cheaper country in Asia. And hear this painful truth for me. I think that American companies love the green card backlog situation. American companies love that H1B employees are tied to their company and can be exploited. The efficiency of a company operating in the US therefore is much higher than efficiency of a company operating in Canada. For the same expense, they can extract more out of the employee because in Canada, the employee can leave that company and move elsewhere pretty quickly. Simply put, American companies are able to extract more out of their H1B employees in America as compared to Canada. Moreover, what do American companies really have to lose if they lose out on their H1B employees due to immigration process? Well, they can easily get a new batch of desperate employees on H1B. Employees who are willing to do anything to come to America and work here for even 3, 4, 5 years. Those people will be more than happy to replace the outgoing H1B employees. In summary, I think that both these countries, US and Canada, are acting in their self-interest. Neither of these countries is doing any kind of charity here. So one must be realistic about the situation and have a pragmatic point of view. If anything, I think Gulf countries are probably better than US and Canada in this regard because you have high salaries, virtually no taxes, and you are closer to home. I'm sorry if I disappointed many people, but focus on the message, not on the messenger. Don't get me wrong, there is absolutely no harm in trying for Canada, but it is equally important to keep your expectations in check. And please don't misunderstand me and forgive me when I say this. There is another country that is already inviting American companies and companies from all over the world to set up their base and start their operations. That country is trying really hard to attract investment. And in that country, people do not have to spend a single penny to get any kind of work permit. You know what country I'm talking about, right? Jai Hind.